to this position tonight. And the coaches told us that they are going to simplify some of the things they do in the secondary, and they use those guys an awful lot on special teams. They hope they don't get worn down tonight.
Probably we'll see if Washington can take advantage of that. They won the toss, deferred to the second half. Stanford will receive. Tristan Vizcaino to kick away, and you know who's back. Here goes McCaffrey to start the night. And he is met with good coverage just beyond the 20-yard line. Ezekiel Turner with the special teams tackle. So the next chapter for Christian McCaffrey, Todd, accounting for 54% of their yards from scrimmage.
They find a lot of different ways to get him the football. They're utilizing him more as a receiver lined up in formation this year, but he is first and foremost a running back, and you have to get a lot of bodies around him, and you must play with great leverage because he's an excellent cutback runner with vision.
The 54% on yards from scrimmage and the 60% of their offensive touches. Both marks lead college football. He is the workhorse. Ryan Burns to pass on first down. And he gets it complete to Rector. And that's going to be a face mask there just beyond the 25-yard line as Azim Victor was in against Rector.
Both Washington coaches we talked to yesterday talked about playing clean.
Personal foul, face mask, defense number 29. 15-yard penalty, automatic first down.
And right away on the first play of the game, 15 yards tacked on to the play. A very obvious call. Connor O'Brien. And great field position. Actually, Azim Victor with the penalty. And great field position for Stanford.
Senior quarterback Ryan Burns. As he is taken down, it's a very active defensive front for Washington. That was Connor O'Brien finding Ryan Burns.
Well, first it was Elijah Qualls that forced Burns to move in the pocket. This is not a high blitz percentage defense. They think they can get to the quarterback by rushing four, and that time a four-man rush got the sack on Burns.
Ryan Burns, who patiently waited his turn behind Kevin Hogan. Last week came up big with the game-winning drive. The go-ahead touchdown with 24 seconds remaining against UCLA. Second and 11, McCaffrey not finding much at all. Big Elijah Qualls was like a stone wall there, and Azim Victor also came in.
When you hear coaches or you hear us talk about leverage and playing with leverage against a great running back, that means you have to keep your outside shoulder free and you have to force everything to the inside. Watch how they play with leverage on the edge here. Keep McCaffrey inside. Don't let him bounce outside. You've got help inside and not so much on the outside.
Third and 11. And is it ever loud here at Husky Stadium? Burns, they got to him again. The dogs are barking early on. Sam Wuching with the sack. Second sack for the Huskies to start the night.
They ran a little line stunt. Again, just a four-man rush. The tackle's going to go out. Wuching's going to come in, and he's going to get free to the quarterback. If you can get to Burns with a four-man rush and play coverage behind it, you have a great advantage for the Washington defense.
Good-looking punter in Jake Bailey. Chico McClatcher is a dangerous return man. Dante Pettis as well back for the Huskies. And Pettis fields it at the 25 and is able to return it out past the 35. And here comes Jake Browning. First Washington player to start a season opener as a true freshman last year, and off to a very good start this year.
He just has so much more of a command of their offense. He's a real film guy, a real grinder. Has been that way since he was a young quarterback, middle school, high school quarterback. Loves to be in the film room, loves to study the game. And when I watch him on film, I'm so impressed. He never looks fooled by the defense. He knows where he wants to go with the football.
And he's able to connect on his first throw of the night for a 9-yard reception.
Very accurate passer. Played at Folsom High School in California. Played for Troy Taylor, who was his high school coach, who actually was an outstanding quarterback himself at Cal.
So able to find the 5'7" Chico McClatcher to start the game. 2nd and 1 to pass again. Outside the numbers this time to John Ross.
Another penalty on Washington, though. Movement by John Ross. Wasn't set before the ball was snapped, and two penalties early
Illegal
on
formation.
Washington.
Offense, 5 players in the backfield. 5-yard penalty, replay, 2nd down.
Yeah, John Ross was trying to move up to get onto the line of scrimmage and got there late. And there's the penalty. So he's trying to move up. He didn't get there enough. He didn't get there set in time. And 5 yards back.
So it makes for a 2nd and 6. Browning again to pass. And a 1st down with John Ross. He is a speedy player. Cut down by Hoffpower just beyond the white sideline there. Well, the crowd reacted to that.
Ross got himself wide open as an outlet receiver. 2 guys are going deep. Ross is the underneath guy. And Stanford, who doesn't normally bust coverages, got themselves out of position. And Ross gets the easy completion and 1st down.
Remember, a couple new faces in that defensive backfield for the Cardinal tonight. This time they keep it on the ground as McClatcher tries to get the edge. They'll put the receiver back there every so often. He scats for 2. See Gaskin a little slow to get up and now limping.
Gaskin's being replaced by Jamon Dotson right now. Number 10, a sophomore. We'll also see Levon Coleman in the Washington backfield, who had a big game, 181 yards last week against Arizona.
Browning going to take a shot downfield. And Pettis hauls it in. So Holly talked about the starting corners being out, and could Washington test them? They passed the test early on.
Well, they went after Murphy. It's bump and run coverage. He doesn't get enough of Pettis. Pettis got away with a little bit of a push as he separated to the football. But again, Browning accurate with the ball over the outside shoulder. And I expected to see Washington go after the 2 corners and try to take advantage with some throws down the field.
35-yard reception, 1st and goal. Dotson. As his leg drive takes it ahead for 4. Quentin Meeks and Elijah Holder, the starting cornerbacks, injured last week against UCLA. So Murphy and Alexander in there tonight for the 7th-ranked Cardinal.
You have to take advantage of opportunities to take the ball down the field and make big plays. Stanford's defense, very difficult to put together long, methodical drives. You need chunk plays.
Jet motion, Browning with time to the end zone and threw it beyond John Ross on that back line.
Good coverage. Hoffpower was in good position. He knew where the back of the end zone was. He just kind of forced the receiver to run out of bounds on his own and bring up a 3rd down situation.
And there's the strength on strength. In the red zone, you see the success that the Washington offense has had, equally as so with the Stanford defense. Third and goal. Browning scrambling and finding Pettis that time. Touchdown, Huskies.
One of the things I think Jake Browning does a great job of is keeping his eyes downfield when he leaves the pocket, and his favorite guy is Pettis in that situation.
And that was a missed extra point that time by Cameron Van Winkle. So Dante Pettis, he set them up, and then he delivered his 4th touchdown reception of the year. Jake Browning's 15th passing touchdown. 6-0 Huskies. Dante Pettis is the son of the longtime major leaguer Gary Pettis. At the touchdown catch moments ago, keep a trend with Washington outscoring opponents in the first quarter. It was a blocked PAT. So we stand at 6-0. See if McCaffrey gets a chance here from the 3. He does. Met hard that time and wrapped up at the 16-yard line. The area with good special teams coverage is starting linebacker for the Huskies.
I love how Jake Browning reads and processes things quickly. His first look is right here for Ross, but he's going to see double coverage. And so what he does is he's going to scramble, but as he scrambles, he is going to pick up Pettis in the back of the end zone on the scramble. When he leaves the pocket, he doesn't leave to run, he leaves to throw. So his eyes stay down the field, and he picks up Pettis for the touchdown. That first drive for Stanford, 4 plays, 3 of them went for 0 or negative yardage.
McCaffrey finds a crease this time and is able to pick up 9 yards.
Holly mentioned some of the injuries. One was a starting fullback, so there's a new fullback in there, a lead blocker. That's Reagan Williams. He's not as big as Daniel Marks, but a very tough physical guy. An Ohio kid from Jackson High School in Ohio made his way out to Stanford and did a nice job lead blocking on that play.
Guy who cracked a lot of helmets on scout team last year. 2nd and 1. Burns, quick strike that time to Dalton Schultz, and that'll move the chains.
Good pass protection that time. First couple drop back passes for Stanford in that first possession. They turned some guys loose that time on 2nd and 1. Very solid pocket, and Burns able to survey the field and pick up his tight end for the first down.
Christian had to change directions, pick up a block from his quarterback, and then the area came in hard again on him.
But again, leverage. Excellent job by Sidney Jones, number 26. Christian McCaffrey is an excellent cutback runner. He has great vision. He's going to start this way and bend it back, and watch the outside defender, Sidney Jones, number 26, just keep him to the inside. Maintain leverage, force him back to his help for a very short game.
2nd and 7 now. The speedy Bryce Love is in the slot to the near side. Watch out for him in spots like this. And they go right to him, and it was overthrown a little bit as they tried to work the screen, but unable to connect with Love. Coach Shaw, his 6th year on the farm. Of course, 2 Rose Bowls in the bag. Tough spot tonight. A little undermanned. Guys have to step up. And a loud crowd on the road. 3rd and 7 for Burns and company. Burns met that time at the 36-yard line by Bieria and Victor.
My goodness, what a rush by Joe Mathis, number 5. He literally ran right through the right tackle and forced Burns to leave the pocket. Watch to the right of your screen. Watch this pass rush 5 on 77 that forces the quarterback to get out of there. So far, Washington's pass rush with only 4 guys has dominated the Stanford offensive line.
So Bailey on to punt for the second time tonight. And it's not a good one at all, as they will be walking up that sideline and marking some prime field position for the Huskies. Just a 19-yard punt for Jake Bailey.
Financial companies often speak about
ESPN College Football, brought to you by Northwestern Mutual. We help you live life differently. And Taco Bell. Grab any $5 box at Taco Bell and you could win PlayStation VR.
Todd, you know, it's week 5 of the college football season, but fall term classes just began here at UW. We were talking to Dante Pettis the other day. I said, what was your first class? He said, Rivers and Beaches.
Yeah.
Rivers and Beaches,
Very
class
unique.
number 1. That's a unique one, huh? I shouldn't talk as a guy that once took physics for the curious, Todd. I was only curious about physics.
Great field position for Washington here after the short punt. I wouldn't be surprised to see him to try to get the ball down the field on this first play to John Ross.
Remember, this on the heels of the 19-yard punt. There is the play action. Browning with a lot of time, and downfield to John Ross, Mr. Blackledge. Well done.
Perfect time to do it. After the short punt, you had success throwing and running some in that first possession. You got him matched up on half power. That's a mismatch in favor of Washington, because Ross is the fastest guy on the field, and he was able to get clear, but great protection also on that deep cross route.
Remember, Gaskin was limping earlier, and now with the carry and cut back to gain positive yardage of 3 yards. Third year here for Chris Peterson after all the success at Boise State, and he's building it the right way.
I thought it was interesting. I read a quote this week by him. They were 7-6 last year, and he said that we were right in every game except one, this game against Stanford. At the end, it wasn't our guys weren't trying hard enough. We just weren't good enough to win. He thinks they are good enough to win this year.
A lot of people think that that talent gap has closed and the experience will pay off. Here's a counter here with Gaskin, and Gaskin was met that time by Dallas Lloyd, just a gain of 3.
Last time we had Stanford 2 weeks ago against USC, one of the big guys in the middle of their defense, Harrison Phillips, did not play, number 66. He's a real physical presence on the inside. Really holds the point, absorbs a lot of double teams, frees up other guys for tackles. Very important cog to this Stanford run defense.
Most noticeable against UCLA last week. He had 5 tackles and a sack. Here's a 3rd and 4 now. Browning on a little under, and it breaks free, and Pettis again with a sensational move and setting up a 1st and goal.
Little crossing route inside, and Pettis got free. Pettis is going to come on a shallow cross from this side of the formation, right in front of the quarterback's eyes. Good protection. And then watch a little stutter step right there to elude the corner and turn it down towards the goal line.
Pettis already 3 catches on the 3 throws his way, plus that touchdown. And once again, 1st and goal for the Huskies. Gaskin fighting his way and in for the score. Good block by David Ajamu.
Gaskin bounced it out and took advantage of the block by Ajamu. Harrison Phillips was almost there, couldn't quite get the shoestring tackle, And then the strength of Gaskin, the leg drive to get the ball in the end zone. Listed at only 195 pounds, but showed great leg drive on that touchdown.
Now under replay review.
So Jim Fogeltance and Cleo Robinson, the replay officials for the Pac-12, will take a peek at Myles Gaskin's effort.
I'm not sure his knees ever went down. As I looked at this play, he kind of backed his way into the end zone and was on bodies before, I don't think he ever touched the ground.
My pylon cam gives you a great view there. And here's the reverse angle as you see him fighting through.
Now really, that Washington player in front of him, you're not allowed to pull a guy into the end zone. You're allowed to push a guy, but not pull a guy. They may have gotten away with one there, but I don't think Gaskin touched the ground.
Well, if it stands, and it should, it's Gaskin's third rushing touchdown of the year. He was one of the bright spots last year against Stanford. Had 108 yards and a touchdown in that game.
First true freshman a year ago to rush for over 1,000 yards. Was the team's offensive MVP. And right away, early in this game, Joe, we've seen the explosive nature of this Washington offense. Pettis, John Ross, Gaskin, the accurate throwing and decision-making of Jake Browning. Why people are so excited. And the offensive line so far doing a nice job.
After review, the ruling on the field of touchdown is confirmed.
So Van Winkle on for the extra point. Casey Tuhill was able to block the first PAT attempt.
I like that you're kicking here too. You don't need to try to chase points.
Not at all.
You got everything going. Kick the extra point.
Well, for Jake Browning, you take advantage of a short field. And for Chris Peterson, you see your Huskies look exactly the way you want them to. 13-0. In one weekend. Hasn't happened since 1978. This is the first one, and it's been all Huskies early on. Joe Tessitore, Todd Blackledge, Holly Rowe with you here in Seattle. Here's McCaffrey from a yard in his end zone, and he turns it on. Flags come down as he tried to get to the outside. We will check on that.
Yeah, first two kickoffs, Washington's coverage was outstanding. That time they left him a crease, but I think the penalty will go against Stanford and back him up.
During the return, holding return team number 31. 10-yard penalty, first down.
There you see. Sometimes you get a hold, you see arms around the outside of the jersey.
We got ourselves a new quarterback, Holly.
Well, that's right. Keller Christ is coming in early in this ballgame. He's only attempted 3 passes this season, already down by 2 touchdowns. Stanford going with the arm that's a little bit more accomplished passer. Ryan Burns a little banged up on the sideline. He's got blood all down his left arm right now, but he should be able to return.
And Keller was the #1 rated pocket passer coming out of high school 3 recruiting seasons ago. And that front for Washington is really up to the task, and Buda Baker coming up to support it.
See, that's a run blitz. They are not a heavy blitz team in passing situations. They count on their front 4 to generate pressure. That time they crowded the line of scrimmage with bodies, and they blitzed anticipating a run. Some other guys outside of Christian McCaffrey are going to have to step up and make some plays for this Stanford offense.
Keller Chris in at quarterback, and you think the crowd noise can affect things. A.T. Hall there.
Offense number 75. 5-yard penalty. Second down.
We said it 2 weeks ago. This offensive line for Stanford, 3 new starters. And when I've watched them on film, they haven't looked as overpowering as recent offensive lines have looked. And already they've had some problems protecting the passer, and that penalty puts them deep inside their own 10-yard line.
As Burns looks on, only 19 yards of offense for Stanford so far tonight. Keller Christ from his own end zone. And he checks down underneath, and a good effort from Dalton Schultz.
Washington went with a 3-man rush that time, picked up well by Stanford. That allowed Chris to kind of stay in the pocket and find an outlet secondary receiver for a much-needed first down.
This was a close quarterback competition this offseason. Chris was neck and neck with Ryan Burns in spring and fall camps. Just missed out on getting a starting nod, but he gets the call now in this spot. McCaffrey patiently waited for something and then wrestled down that time, as Azim Victor was able to find him, and Connor O'Brien coming in as well.
If there is a formula for stopping or slowing down Christian McCaffrey, it's overloading the box, putting more bodies than you can block in around the line of scrimmage. But you also have to maintain leverage and not let him bounce outside or cut it back against the grain. And so far, Washington has done a nice job of keeping him under control in the run game.
2nd and 6 now for Keller Christ. Reverse this time. Thomas, nowhere to go. Tywan Thomas found by Connor O'Brien, and the Huskies are surging here defensively.
It's leverage again. Watch 29 keep leverage. He stays at home. He forces it back in. He doesn't let him turn the corner. And another loss of yardage play for this Washington defense. They're not blitzing. They're just playing fundamentally sound, and they're controlling the line of scrimmage. Stanford has been 3rd and 7, 3rd and 11, 3rd and 10. Their offense isn't necessarily built for that.
0 for 2 on 3rd downs tonight. Hit as he throws, and intercepted by Sidney Jones. A flag is down. We will check on that back at the 15-yard line.
Christ was hit right as he threw it, but was still able to get enough on it. I think Sidney Jones is the guy that could get called for the penalty before the interception, obviously. There could have been holding on the crossing route as well. 2 receivers on that side of the field.
There are 2 fouls on the play. Both fouls are against the defense. Before the pass, holding defense number 26. That foul, roughing the passer, defense number 29, hitting the quarterback in the head. The ball is returned to Stanford. 15-yard penalty, automatic first down.
Well, first of all, as you take a look at Sidney Jones working on Irvin, I think the hold was actually inside on an inside receiver. Here's the hit on the quarterback. Hands to the face. I mean, that's the right call.
McCaffrey straight up the middle. About 2.5 yards that time. First time these 2 schools have met as top 10 ranked teams.
Number 36 in the defense, his helmet came off and has to leave for 1 play.
That's Azim Victor, their fine linebacker. As Bryce Love is now the running back in the I formation for Stanford. And Love will get some work and unable to spin free. A gain of 3. A flag down here as we come to the end of this first quarter.
They're going to get a penalty at the end of the play. I think Joe Mathis, number 5, came in and pushed a Stanford player in the back after the play was over. And another costly, unnecessary
After
penalty.
the play, personal foul, unnecessary roughness, defense number 5. This is a 15-yard penalty, an automatic first down. Because this foul occurred after the quarter end, we'll end the quarter and put it on the beginning of the second quarter.
Third defensive penalty against Washington. What did Chris Peterson say? Last year they weren't good enough. It was 31-14 Stanford last year. 13-0 Washington now as they meet here in Seattle as top 10s. Glad you're with us for Dr. Pepper's Championship Drive Game of the Week. Beautiful Husky Stadium here in Seattle, or as the great Keith Jackson would often say, the grandest view in all of sports. Now this is Stanford's first play run in Washington territory tonight. McCaffrey out of the backfield gets away from the first would-be tackler. Tried to keep his balance. Penalties have been a big part of this drive alone.
I mean, Stanford has 40 yards on 15 plays, 16 plays, but the penalties. This was the first play of the game, a face mask, 15 yards. Then they had the roughing the quarterback, extended the drive, another 15-yarder. Then the last play, very silly penalty. He's going to come over here and push a guy in the back, but he's going to do it right in front of the official. The umpire's looking right at him, and the flag comes out immediately. That's the best offense Stanford has been the penalties on Washington.
McCaffrey just able to find that little crease to the 36-yard line, a gain of 5.
One thing that Christian McCaffrey does a great job of, and my old roommate Kurt Warner, who's here, was a great running back at Penn State, great running back for the Seattle Seahawks. He pointed it out today. We were watching film. He says he gets his shoulders square to the line of scrimmage at the point of attack, and that allows him to cut any way he wants to when he sees a crease. Not every back does that. Christian McCaffrey does a great job of it.
And they're going to put him in the slot here, top of your screen on 3rd and 3. They keep Chris Harrell, the backup fullback, in for pass pro. And they're going to go quarterback run with Keller Christ, and he comes up short.
Interesting to see what David Shaw decides to do now. I think he might go for it here.
In that no man's land as he looks over the play sheet.
You bring in your heavy package and you give the ball to number 5.
And the big bodies are coming in, including number 98, Nate Herbig, who's 6'6", 350-pound true freshman from Hawaii.
They got to hurry, though. The play clock is down to 10. They may have to use a timeout, and there's David Shaw right now. A little bit late deciding which personnel groups they wanted in, what exact play they wanted. Smart to use the timeout.
Stanford, their first charge timeout. This will be a full timeout.
4th and 2 when we return to Seattle.
Mantra for the Washington defense and defending Christian McCaffrey all week has been do your job. That means play with leverage. Own your leverage. Keep everything to the inside. Keep your outside shoulder free. So far in the ball game, Washington has done a nice job. They've been very disciplined in containing McCaffrey. They're going to get another chance here, possibly, on this 4th down play.
Here we go. 4th and 2 for Stanford. Something went wrong there with the snap. Christ was not expecting it. Joe Mathis came darting in. And we've got a turnover on downs.
Yeah, they were not ready for this. No line. The left tackle didn't even move. Watch number 75. A.T. Hall never even moved. And the guy lined up across from him, Joe Mathis, made the play. The crowd noise, obviously, a huge factor on that critical 4th down play.
Holly, what's it like down there on field level?
Well, I do have the decibel meter going, guys. It has peaked out at about 98 decibels. Just to let you know, a jackhammer's about 115, a jet engine 140, so it is deafening.
So the turnover on downs, and now John Ross on the end around, and they tracked that very well that time.
It's one of the other new corners, Frank Buncombe, number 4, who makes the play. The 2 injured starting corners, Quentin Meeks and Elijah Holder, out. That means Murphy and Alexander started the game, and Buncombe is the 3rd guy rotating in there. And that, we've talked about the Washington defense playing with leverage. That was great leverage by Buncombe on a very fast John Ross.
Browning the pass on 2nd down, and once again Ross in the open field.
Just the timing, the knowledge of where you want to go with the football. You see single coverage to the wide side of the field, one-on-one, and he throws it on time. Before Ross is out of his break, the ball's in the air. And Jake Browning 7 for 8 to start this football game.
Play action, Browning, a lot of time, a lot of options, but good coverage that time on Chico McClatcher by Zach Hoffpower.
Hoffpower got beat on the deep crossing route earlier in the game by John Ross. This time he's in good position to make the play. It's not a crossing route, but he's excellent position on McClatcher and gets that hand on the football and knocks it away. Very instinctive player. Played pro baseball last year. Has done both at Stanford. Really understands the game. Great feel for the game.
Coleman. Room on that right side, and it'll be 3rd and short. And you mentioned Coleman has been in a groove. Last week against Arizona, had 181 yards.
He's a little different type back. A little bigger than both Gaskin or Dotson. 230-pound guy. Gives him a little change of pace at that running back position. Tell you, the guy who's been quiet for Stanford so far, Solomon Thomas.
There's a pitch to Gaskin. As they drew him in, read it, Browning pitched it. Gaskin takes it for another 1st down, 14 yards there.
Tricky little play. They faked like they were going to run the zone. Watch Gaskin first step in like he's going to run it inside, and that fooled Peter Colombaye and forced them to get to the corner. They lost leverage because of the little inside fake by Gaskin. And a big gain on 3rd and short for Washington.
I like the way Browning executes.
Yeah,
he manages things well. Very secure, reliable guy.
Took over this offense from day 1 when he came in.
First down as Browning extends the play and gets it complete. Down near the 10-yard line. That was Bocelli with the reception.
When I watched film on Jake Browning, this was the first thing that stood out to me, is that he has a good feel of when he scrambles to not panic and lose sight of what's happening downfield. When he scrambles to throw first. He does not scramble to run first.
2nd and 1. 7th play of this drive that started with the turnover on downs. Coleman on the counter. And it'll be 1st and goal, Washington again.
Washington winning at the line of scrimmage. Jake Browning's hot, but they're winning at the line of scrimmage. Watch this blocking as they pull the tackle. Watch their big left tackle. NFL prospect Trey Adams, 6'8", 320. Nice job blocking in there. The tight end, Darrell Daniels. Little counter play. That's power football. A little taste of their own medicine to Stanford down here by the goal line.
Coleman on 1st and goal, play action to the end zone from Browning. The crowd wanted a flag as he was looking for John Ross. It'll be 2nd and goal.
Well, 2 guys were out there. I think they just kind of got tangled up. Hoffpower was trying to get outside to stay with his man, and they just, well, definitely contact by Hoffpower. Make a case for that.
Second and goal. And held short that time was Coleman as Hoffpower made the tackle. The third and goal down at the 1.
Was Sean Barton also the linebacker. Hoffpower and Barton combined to take that big back and drive him back.
Interestingly, here on this third and goal, Sam Wuching, the linebacker, is in on offense. As Coleman out of the I formation, play action, Browning to the end zone, and it's off his hands.
Well, if you put a defensive end or outside linebacker in the ball game and throw it to him, you better give him something he can catch with his body. Don't make him stretch those arms out. I put this one on Browning. Ball's a little high. Yeah, he got two hands up there, but give him something easy to catch. You had the play you wanted, just not a very good throw, I don't think, by Jake Browning.
Wuching's got an eclectic resume, a fire dancer back in his native Hawaii, a former rugby player, but offensive playmaker with the reception, not that time. As the short field goal from Van Winkle goes through. This was the opportunity for Browning.
You figure he's in to block. They fooled him with the play call, but the throw wasn't good enough.
Bucket list has to be the opportunity to do some sailgating here in Seattle on Lake Washington, where the home team has flipped the script when it comes to how they played Stanford in the first half last year and how they've gone about it offensively this year.
Well, we knew that they would be better, and Chris Peterson knew his team was a year older. That team last year, their roster, 52 freshmen, true and redshirt freshmen, only 13 seniors on the 2015 roster. That experience showing up today.
McCaffrey on the return here. Well, here we go, the first of the 3 top 10 matchups, and it continues Saturday on ABC. 3:30 Eastern, number 8 Wisconsin against number 4 Michigan, and then 8 o'clock Eastern on ABC is the showdown of star quarterbacks, the battle atop the ACC, Louisville and Clemson, Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson.
Two outstanding players. Lamar Jackson has set the college football world on fire so far, accounting for 25 touchdowns.
Ryan Burns is back at quarterback for Stanford. And McCaffrey still hasn't gotten going. Just a yard and a half there. Johnson with the tackle.
You know, I thought it was odd that David Shaw took Ryan Burns out. But sometimes a coach will take a guy out and just say, hey, just sit over here and watch for a little bit. You don't look like you're in rhythm. You don't look like you're seeing things really well yet. So let's take a series or 2 off and see if you don't feel a little bit better and see things a little bit better when you go out there again.
Burns on 2nd and 8 as he gets it to Rector. You know, one of the stats everybody was so wowed by this week was that Christian McCaffrey has not scored a touchdown in a true road game. And you see the difference between what he does on the road compared to all his other games, whether it's the neutral site, the Bowls, the Pac-12 championship, or the home games. It is a startling number to look at.
Yeah, it's really kind of an odd stat. I would have never guessed that prior to seeing it this week.
And Bryce Love is now in the backfield here on 3rd and 2. And now he splits out to the near side. So Burns to pass on 3rd and 2. And once again, they take him down, Joe Mathis. 4th sack tonight for Washington.
Just a 4-man rush, and Mathis beats A.T. Hall, the left tackle. Here he is right here, one-on-one. You got to win your individual battles. 4-man rush, 6-man protection. But number 5 was just better than 75 on that play and gets Burns from the backside.
Huskies defense is swarming.
Delay of game, offense, 5-yard penalty, 4th down.
Holly.
Well, keep in mind the Stanford offensive line has not been intact the last couple of weeks. They made a change. Casey Tucker was the left tackle. They put him back on the right side and moved A.T. Hall back onto the left side. This is their 2nd week back in that new configuration, but just not quite in sync up front for Stanford.
No, Holly, you're right. And the other thing, I don't think Stanford has ever been used to getting manhandled at the line of scrimmage the way they are tonight.
Another flag is down as Bailey gets a much better punt off this time. And it is muffed by Pettis, who finally scoops it up but has to retreat to his own 5. Able to stay in bounds and finally taken down out near the 26. So Bailey struggled with that 19-yard punt, and then he goes 64 yards with a 4.84 hang time there.
Stanford offensively, 46 yards of offense on 22 plays here in the first half. And they are getting manhandled at the line of scrimmage. They aren't blocking. They're getting beat on the run game. And in the pass game, they've not blitzed, but Washington has gotten great pressure with a 4-man rush.
Illegal formation, offense, not enough players on the line of scrimmage. This 5-yard penalty be added to the end of the play. 1st down, Washington.
See if Stanford can find a way. 16-0 Huskies. Well, they packed in over 72,000, filling up Husky Stadium. And Washington up 16-0. There's the ESPN Command Center. Look at that, Todd. You got everything side by side with our coverage. You got Sky Cam. You got real-time stats. Head coach ISO's pylon cam there. That is live now on ESPN3 and the Watch ESPN app. We encourage you to enjoy that tonight. Dotson, as he is taken down by Bunkum.
Every time I see that command center, I get the picture of one of our bosses, Ed Placey, standing on the bridge, overlooking it, a couple different headsets on, and just
the bridge as in like a cruise ship.
Yeah,
he's the captain of the command center.
Or
like Merrill Steuben back on the Love Boat, so to say, just with more iPads and iPhones in his hands.
Yes.
2nd and 6 now.
Now there's the first time we're going to call the name of Solomon Thomas. He's the best player on this Stanford defense, and he's had a pretty quiet night so far, but he makes a nice play here. Gets up a little slowly, chases this play from the backside. It's actually harder to run away from him sometimes than it is to run to him, because his pursuit speed and angles are so good. Here he is right here again.
He's the Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Week last week, and that last second 42-yard fumble return, scoop and score. And now the medical staff is out dealing with him. We will check on him when we return. Stanford in a big hole in this top 10 matchup.
I'm Adnan Burke back in our college.
Thank you, Adnan. What a wild ride of a career Taysom Hill has had for BYU. Here's a 3rd and 5. Browning going to take a shot downfield, and Ross went up for it, and a flag comes down as Alameen Murphy had coverage on John Ross. Remember, both starting corners out injured for David Shaw's defense.
And Washington is not feeling sorry
Pass
for him.
interference, defense number 23, 15-yard penalty, automatic 1st down.
3rd down and 5. You're expecting an underneath throw, and they take a shot down the field. Murphy's in pretty good position on Ross, but he doesn't find the ball. He ends up getting a hand on it, but not until he ran into the receiver and made contact without making a play on the football.
There's the counter with Gaskin. As Thomas back in there with the tackle. Thought this defense for Stanford came in 8th nationally in scoring defense, only giving up 12 points a game.
Well, they've had their hands full tonight. You know, Jake Browning has kept them off balance. He's 8 for 12 throwing. They've had a nice blend of run and pass, and they've taken advantage of their opportunities to make some big plays down the field in the passing game.
There's going to be a direct snap right now to Gaskin as Browning split out. And now back to Browning, who has the opportunity to throw downfield, and Crossfield is able to get it complete that time to Quentin Pounds.
And there's going to be a roughing the passer on Solomon Thomas at the end of the play. A trick play back to Browning. He was hit as he threw it. That's why that ball kind of fluttered and stayed in the air a long time.
Personal foul, roughing the passer, defense number 90. He threw the quarterback down unnecessarily. 15-yard penalty, automatic first down.
Normally when you put the quarterback out wide, he's just a decoy. He's just out here to do nothing. You're going to run the football with a direct snap. Not Washington on this play. A trick play back to the quarterback. An open receiver. The ball fluttered. Took a long time to get there because of this. Solomon Thomas. Well, I think it was probably the throwdown at the end that got the penalty.
Browning to the end zone. Touchdown, John Ross. Flag is down. We will check on that. It's back at the line of scrimmage.
I think it's going to be illegal hands to the face on Stanford. Will be declined for the touchdown. I think Harrison Phillips on the inside had his hand up into the face mask of the center, Coleman Shelton. And another beautiful throw by Jake Browning.
The result of the play is a touchdown. Personal foul, hands to the face, defense number 66. 15-yard penalty will carry over to the kickoff.
That's Harrison Phillips. And John Ross back healthy. Fastest player on the team. And they've been targeting him time and time again tonight. And he has delivered. 6th touchdown reception of the year for John Ross.
Well, really nice job. This safety here is the only guy that can get in the way. The quarterback has to use his eyes to hold Dallas Lloyd just long enough to slip it in between him and the corner. Nice route by Ross, perfect timing, and the ball in the right spot. And another touchdown throw for Browning.
Go down to the field to Holly.
Well, John Ross using his speed well tonight, guys. Keep in mind, this is a guy who was just timed this spring. Had timed 40 at 4.24. That is very fast. But he said he actually learned an important lesson working out with Deshaun Jackson this summer in Los Angeles, that sometimes you have to slow down. Deshaun Jackson realized that if you're using your speed too much, sometimes you can outrun the quarterback's throw. You have to slow down, jog your route a little bit, and not be too fast. We've seen John Ross really do a great job of that tonight. He has been exactly where his quarterback needed to be. A good complement of speed and precision.
We talked about the speed of this Washington offense on the perimeter, and it has shown up. It has really stressed this depleted secondary of Stanford tonight.
Boulder and Meeks, the starting corners out. John Ross, a big weapon, and Jake Browning taking advantage.
Get that one up into the tuba section.
Let's go to the studio and check in with that man.
All right, Joe Sess, thank you very much. Coming up on the Lexus halftime report, so far this Washington defense has been tremendous. We'll have Joey Galloway and Danny Cannell share their thoughts on what they're seeing in Seattle. Also, top 10 throwdowns this week. We are looking ahead to Clemson in Death Valley facing Lamar Jackson and Louisville. What will the defense have to slow down that young man, as well as Michigan taking on Wisconsin in the Big House? It's all coming up at the half. Joe Tess, back to you.
Looking forward to hearing what the guys have to say about that Louisville-Clemson matchup. I was talking to Kirk Herbstreit earlier. He was talking about Brett Venables' traditionally aggressive defense. Will he stay in attack mode against Lamar Jackson?
Kind of dangerous, because I think Lamar Jackson is more dangerous as a runner than a thrower.
They set up the screen this time, and still not much there for McCaffrey.
Now, the story of this first half defensively for Washington has been their discipline and their leverage. That's the 23rd offensive play for Stanford, but only one play has gone for more than 10 yards.
Burns steps up. He's going to tuck and run. He's capable at that, and it'll be a first down. Just over 3 minutes to play here in the first half.
Burns took his team on a 70-yard drive in the final 2:05 last week in the win against UCLA for the go-ahead touchdown.
Vaya with the tackle that time. Vita Vaya is a big-time NFL prospect at 6'5", 330 pounds. Bryce Love checks in for McCaffrey here on 2nd and 6. Burns to midfield to Dalton Schultz. They're quick to get to him. It'll be 3rd and 1 for Stanford from there.
A lot of personnel changes here for Stanford. Remember, they're missing their starting fullback and their starting tight end, Greg Tabuada. So some of these substitutions, they've had different guys running in. They had to use a timeout earlier in the game because they didn't have everybody out there on time.
They're 0 for 4 on 3rd downs.
This is their shortest one, though. I don't think they've got the play on. Again,
before the snap, delay of game, offense, 5-yard penalty, 3rd down.
Again, Stanford likes to use a lot of different personnel groups, heavy personnel groups with extra offensive linemen, multiple tight ends. But remember, they're missing their starting fullback. They're missing one of their tight ends, and they're missing one of their backup linemen, Brandon Fanica, who is also a guy that they use in the heavy formation. So different guys in different spots, and it's affected their rhythm a little bit.
And Holly Casey Tucker is now slow to get up at the end of that play.
That's right. They're seeing to him on the field right now. And keep in mind, they're also without Brandon Fanica this night. They've got so many people out right now injured. It's really affecting their rotations and their ability to quickly get those personnel groups in there. They're just down too many bodies right now, and it seems to be affecting their mojo.
Jack Dreyer is a backup offensive lineman. Saw him warming up for a moment. Also 8 penalties on Stanford. That is a season high. Haven't even reached halftime yet. Disciplined team, at times undisciplined tonight, and facing a Washington team that was absolutely primed for this moment. 3rd and 7 now. And is it ever loud here? There's a blitz up the middle, and it is complete to Trent Irwin. And a good gainer for the Stanford offense to the 31-yard line. 24-yard reception.
Nice job by Burns hanging in there. He got hit right as he released it. Irwin, a nice route, showed his quarterback the number, and the ball was delivered on time.
The longest play of the game so far. McCaffrey now. He was met by Wuching.
You know, last week UCLA had a similar plan with Christian McCaffrey. They overloaded the box. They had a lot of bodies around the line of scrimmage. Sometimes they had 5 defensive linemen. And yet McCaffrey still was able to run for 138 yards. Tonight, a much more difficult time against this Washington defense.
Burns, they take him down again. 5th sack for Washington. Clock is counting down. Stanford 2 timeouts. And they'll use one.
Stanford,
See,
for second of the half.
When you can create pressure, when you can create pressure with 4 guys, that means you take 7 and put them into coverage. Ryan Burns can't find anywhere to throw the football against 7 defenders because a 4-man rush is getting there and closing the pocket on him.
Now this is a desperate drive
Stanford
here
is elected for a full timeout. This will be a full timeout
for Stanford. One thing I think about, and Todd, we've been around this program a good bit, is what their identity is. And are they built for spots like this, the ability to come back when you're in a big hole?
Yeah, it's not really their wheelhouse. You know, their wheelhouse is to play from ahead, is to put pressure on the other team by limiting their possessions, by possessing the football, shortening the game. And right now they need to try to lengthen the game. They need to try to get as many big plays as they can out of their offense. They have not shown that so far in this game, and the pass rush is going to be a problem continuing.
You know, you and I mentioned the energy in this building, the big event. It has played itself onto the field. This crowd has played a role here tonight.
The crowd has played a role. It affects offensive tackles more than anything, and that's where some of the pressure has come in the pass rush against this Stanford offense. You have to use silent counts. Tackles have to look in at the football, and that puts them a count or so behind rushers.
Flag is down, and so is Burns. Greg Gaines this time.
This was just, again, a single move by Gaines, working on Johnny Caspers, one of the most veteran guys up there for the Stanford offensive line, the right guard. Just man a swim move and beat him to the quarterback.
Illegal formation, offense, 5 players in the backfield. Penalty is declined, 4th down.
They weren't even sure how much Gaines was going to be able to play. An undisclosed injury. He's just going to whip the right guard. Rips underneath them. And that's an impossible pressure to get away from at the quarterback. If it's an outside rush, you can step up in the pocket. When it comes from the inside tackle right into the face of the quarterback, very difficult to get away from.
So the glimmer of hope for Stanford after the reception by Irwin, it is gone.
6 quarterback sacks in the first half.
Let's see where they spot this here. (23-0) as the officials put the statement on the half is over. Not just any half, the half that Washington was looking for. 23-0. Is this the defining breakthrough night for the Huskies? Boy, do they look good so far. Here's the Lexus half.
Welcome back. Dr. Pepper Championship Drive Game of the Week.
The first time these two have met up as top 10 ranked teams. One very much looks like a top 10 team. The home team 23-0 here. Joe and Todd with you here at Husky Stadium. Coming into tonight, Stanford had only given up 4 sacks. They've dropped back 15 times tonight. They've given up 6 in the first half.
Yeah, and all those sacks came with a 4-man rush. It wasn't outside pressure. It wasn't blitz, which just tells you the domination at the line of scrimmage. We talked about what did Washington have to do to have a chance to win. Have a mentality of physicality at the line of scrimmage. They had that. And then take advantage of opportunities to make big plays down the field. They did that as well. That's why they have been in complete command of this football game.
Guess who gets the ball to start the second half? Washington with the dangerous John Ross back to return. And he will take it out. And he is wrestled down just beyond the 20. Moments ago, Holly with David Shaw.
Well, Coach, I know you would not use excuses for your injuries, but how is it affecting your offense, getting your personnel grouping out there and just getting organized at the line of scrimmage?
That has nothing to do with it. We just got to play better. It's about as bad as a half as we've played in years. It's time for us to turn it around.
The line of scrimmage has been an issue with noise, with penalties. How do you fix those things?
It's not the noise.
Okay.
They are playing better than we are, and we hope to change that in the second half.
Okay. Any changes with your secondary? The young guys struggling a little bit.
We just got to play better.
Okay, Coach. Thanks.
Thank you.
Boy, do they. Jake Browning. Pressure on Browning, and he just goes a yard ahead as Jackson and Thomas. So the last time Stanford has overcome a deficit of 21+ points was 1999 against USC. We mentioned it earlier. They're just not built for this task.
No, they want to run the football. They want to chew up clock. They have not had explosive plays with their offense tonight either. So it's going to be hard to see how they play dramatically better offensively in the first half.
Miles Gaskin, as he lowers his shoulder out to the 28, a gain of 5.
What they need, as much as anything, is they need a turnover from their defense. Washington has played so far a clean game outside of some penalties. No turnovers. They've been effective and efficient on third down. And mainly because most of those third downs have been 5 yards or less the yardage needed. They haven't had third down in long situations. That's why they're 3 for 5 in the ball game.
3rd and 4. Little Chico McClatcher is in the backfield. Now he motions out. Here's Browning looking for Ross, and it's incomplete. So the Stanford defense able to get off the field here.
Yeah, I don't know if Terrence Alexander needs to do that. I mean, these two new corners have had a rough game so far, and he got up a little chirpy at the end of that play. Nice play, got the stop, forced the punt. A lot of football left to be played.
Now Christian McCaffrey, he has 1 punt return in his career, came in the Rose Bowl. 1 punt return touchdown in his career came in the Rose Bowl last year against Iowa. They came after that. Hit a Stanford players, a fight for the ball, and Washington appears to have it. So just when David Shaw's defense did their job, special teams cost them.
Yeah, Ben Edwards is going to be coming down to block. McCaffrey's trying to tell him.
The ruling on the field is the kid
poison.
touched a Stanford player in the back and then was recovered by Washington. First down, Washington.
The player who recovered was Levon Coleman, the running back.
It was a short kick, and Ben Edwards had no idea where the ball was and hit him in the back. Stanford had a couple chances to recover it, but Washington comes up with the turnover.
So back to business is Browning, and taking a shot to the end zone, and the flag will have to come out there as John Ross was waiting on it, and Dallas Lloyd made contact.
Well, the ball was underthrown by Jake Browning, and because of that, as Ross slowed down, Dallas Lloyd didn't. And the contact was there for the pass interference.
Defense number 29. 15-yard penalty. Automatic first down.
When you have a receiver as fast as John Ross, you got to get this ball up in the air quickly. Jake Browning, a little too much air under it. They got the penalty, but he would have had a touchdown if he threw the ball deeper.
Holly mentioned earlier, hand timed in the 40 at 4.25 this past April. And Gaskin dragging Dallas Lloyd inside the 20.
Good job of the Washington offensive line staying on blocks. It's the left tackle, Trey Adams, down, got a nice block on that play.
The medical staff out to see Trey Adams. He was a sophomore, and last year he earned the job as a true freshman. It was the first time they ever had a true freshman starter at left tackle.
Well, that's him right here. Very quiet stadium right now. Usually when something happens, a guy gets rolled up. He's engaged in a block.
We'll check on Adams when we return. Huskies on the move again. So after the Adams injury, Washington's offense back and ready for a 2nd and 4. This after the turnover on the punt to start this second half. It'll be 3rd and 1 after the Gaskin run, tackled by Jackson that time.
Good to see Trey Adams up, moving around on his own. Sometimes those scare you more than anything else. Feel that body rolling in the back of your legs.
Yeah, big 300-pounders cascading down, and you're turned the wrong way.
Again, another 3rd down and very short or manageable distance for the Huskies.
And they're going to run option, and the pitch again, and it works well again. And it'll be 1st and goal, Washington.
Same little thing where they fake the inside move. Watch the back. Fake inside. It's just like a little different variation of a freeze option, and in this case it froze Joey Alfieri, and they get the corner for the 1st down. That little hesitation, that little inside move with the shoulder, enough to get to the edge.
Gaskin, touchdown. What a statement night this is for Washington.
Well, Trey Adams was back on the field for that play, and he got a man-sized block at the point of attack. And Gaskin, again, showing that leg strength and drive, takes the ball into the end zone.
Two touchdowns tonight for Myles Gaskin. Sensational freshman a year ago, and now part of this emerging offense for the Huskies. What a bright future, but they're delivering already this year.
ESPN College Football, brought to you by AT&T, mobilizing your world. And Chick-fil-A, we didn't invent the chicken, just the chicken sandwich.
Well, they got a lot to be proud of with their grand history here at Washington, and they're celebrating the 25th anniversary of the undefeated 91 team, the Code National Champs, of course, coached by the late, great Don James from your neck of the woods, Massillon, right? Massillon guy? Jim Lambright, coordinator back then, was the defensive coordinator for the national champs back in 91. A lot of his former players gathering around on a night when I think they're feeling like it is back then in the early 90s, when they would put up scores like this against ranked teams. Haven't called this guy's name enough. Christian McCaffrey. And McCaffrey, great return. Can he get free here as he takes it past midfield?
Well, his vision is outstanding. He picks up a couple blocks, shoulders square. He's seeing the next level defenders, and he's making guys miss, and he gives his offense excellent field position to start. Remember, they were supposed to get the ball before they muffed the punt or had the turnover on the punt. So this is Stanford's first time with the football here in the second half.
57-yard return for McCaffrey. He's been limited with his yards from scrimmage, but a little something in the return game. And that scoreboard is going to need a lot more of that. Burns gets it complete to Irwin, and Stanford will have a first down at the 16-yard line. 25-yard reception.
Little hook and go that time by Irwin. He sold the short route. Washington bit, and he was able to get it down the seam for a big gain.
Stanford's deepest penetration of the night into Washington territory.
You got McCaffrey out here as a wideout now, slot receiver. Bryce Love in the backfield.
And they will swing it out to McCaffrey. And he steps out at about the 11-yard line as Azim Victor was there on the edge.
.47 yards of offense tonight for Christian McCaffrey. Coming into the game averaging 188 yards per game, all purpose from scrimmage. The Washington defense has been locked on him.
Quarterback run, and not much there that time. As Qualls and Bierria were able to get to Burns.
Qualls and Gaines on the inside. Both built about the same way. 6'1", 6'2", 320 pounds. They're very stout. Vaya in there at number 50. He's the bigger guy on that defensive line. 18 yards rushing.
I think those big square bodies have done their job. McCaffrey on the pitch, and he is tripped up. That was Joe Mathis who was able to stop Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, I think McCaffrey gets this one in the end zone if he doesn't get tripped up. He's got some blockers out. He hurdles the first defender, and Joe Mathis able to trip him up when he comes back down to the ground after the jump.
4th and 2.
Remember last time they had 4th down, the crowd affected the snap count. Quarterback got the ball before he was ready, and they came up empty. And David Shaw calls a timeout again.
So number 8, Donald Stewart, switching to the other side. This is his first college game.
Stanford, their first charge timeout of the half. This would be a 30-second timeout.
Now this is billed as the top 10 throwdown. It's a smackdown here of Stanford in Seattle. Tomorrow it continues with the second of these 3 top 10 matchups. Saturday on ABC, you got Wisconsin and Michigan. Jabril Peppers leading the nation in tackles for loss, impacting the game every which way. And then the nightcap, one of the most anticipated games with what Louisville's been able to do this September. Number 3 going down to Death Valley to take on Clemson. Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson. You know, the Heisman race doesn't really begin until just about now. But Jackson's been in that starting gate, ready to burst loose. 4th and 2. Burns. Oh, did he get wrecked? Ball comes loose on 4th down, but time and time again, all over the Stanford quarterbacks. It was Elijah Qualls with the big hit.
Moving on the field is a fumble recovered by Washington. First down.
And if this doesn't tell you anything about Stanford's inability to run, 4th and 2, you don't run, you throw, and they're going to collapse the pocket. Elijah Qualls is going to get there. Whooshing comes on the inside and gets the high hit 4th and 2, one of the best players in college football in the backfield, and you don't have confidence you can run it, and they give up yet another sack in the ball game. The Washington defense, their front four has been outstanding.
And quick pass this time to Pettis. Jake Browning with a good night of managing things for this Washington offense. 2 touchdown passes, 11 of 16, 172 yards. He's had a few moments of solid work on those 3rd down conversion option pitches. And they go with the bubble screen this time. And look at that effort by Chico McClatcher, spinning, keeping his balance for 21 yards.
This was one of those RPOs. It was a run play called with the bubble screen as the secondary option. Stanford had a lot of guys around the run in the line of scrimmage. The quick throw and then just incredible individual effort by McClatcher. Wow.
He's low to the ground, and it benefited him that time. He goes 5'7", 179. As Coleman makes the most of that.
You know, both of these teams were coming off of night games on the road, short week, and both schools started this week on the quarter system. I actually thought Washington would have the harder time because their game started later on Saturday. They had a longer trip home from Tucson, got home at 5 a.m. on Sunday, and started into the work week. But they have looked like the fresher football team.
Here's Coleman again, as he will keep those legs driving, and now the offensive lineman getting into the mix out beyond midfield. It'll be another 1st down for the Huskies. Stanford offense was somewhat lifeless at UCLA until that final 2-minute drive. Washington had themselves a lead at Arizona and then couldn't put it away late, forcing overtime, a 35-28. But both were pushed to the limit. Both were tested and extended last week. But there was great energy when you and I were up here at practice the other day, and you could sense it in the town. But they were sitting on this one. They were circling this game, waiting for this. As Gaskin is brought down by Tuo, and a flag is down.
I just remember listening to Chris Peterson on the practice field on Thursday, and a lot.
Holding, offense number 56, 10-yard penalty, replay 1st down.
Shouting at the interior lineman, physical at the line of scrimmage, physical at the line of scrimmage. Knowing that that was a big part, a key ingredient to winning this game, to having a chance to beat Stanford. If you're not physical at the line of scrimmage, you don't have a chance.
And I thought, Todd, to that point, you brought up the example of, in the Pac-12, Stanford's a neighborhood bully.
Yeah.
And you can't run and hide. You have to take the fight to them. That's what they did right from the start tonight.
Absolutely, they have. Their offensive line and their defensive line have been superior tonight.
Here's McClatcher again, as he's only able to get 2 that time. Let's go down to the field to Holly.
Well, the other thing I've been watching tonight on the sideline is this sophomore quarterback, Jake Browning. Guys, he is a true sophomore. He's very young, but boy, does he have moxie over here. I saw him standing up on the bleachers, waving his arms, getting everybody fired up. He's the first guy down there congratulating his teammates. He has so much juice over here on the sideline. Even some of the older players have said he is our leader. At practice, he's the one that's like, hey, get it together. Let's focus in. I love the energy this kid's had on the sidelines tonight.
Yeah, Dante Pettis, when Holly, we visited with him the other day, said Jake took ownership of this team right away. Came in as a freshman, and he got everybody focused. And he was just outstanding in high school. Some of the most gaudy numbers you will ever see. Broke the national record for career touchdown passes. Had 229 career touchdown passes. Todd, he had 91 touchdown passes his senior season.
Yeah, that's crazy. And only 7 interceptions. That's a pretty good ratio. Yeah.
Highlights from Folsom High down there in California. First game he ever played as a true freshman, he threw 10 touchdown passes. They'll just keep it on the ground here with Coleman on the 3rd and 18. Coleman had that great 55-yard fourth quarter touchdown run last week at Arizona. He was a little more in the mix as a freshman. Began last year slotted as the starter, but then Myles Gaskin came in and had such an outstanding season. So they have some depth at running back. They got a sensational sophomore and a leader here at quarterback, and you've seen the display of speed they have at receiver. Rugby style punt from Vizcaino as it lands inside the 10 and then goes harmlessly into the end zone beyond McCaffrey. They are just taking it to him tonight here in Seattle. Well, you're watching Dr. Pepper's championship drive, game of the week, and a score that is going to have Washington in the drive towards a Pac-12 championship if they can stay the course. Pete Kwiatkowski, the defensive coordinator of Washington, he has to be thrilled with what he's seen with his side of the ball.
Talked about owning their leverage, talked about doing their job, being physical, everything that he would have hoped for out of his defense tonight. They've been dominant.
They have been dominating Christian McCaffrey, holding him to only 35 yards rushing. Almost a tackle for loss, and then McCaffrey breaks free and runs into one of the officials there. That may have been Tim Schroeder he just ran over that time. And it was. There's the umpire, Tim Schroeder, who just went down at the end of the play.
You see the lower body strength of McCaffrey. I mean, he's hitting the backfield. Pretty good defense by Washington, but they don't wrap him up. And the lower body strength of Christian McCaffrey, he runs through arm tackles, and he ran through an official also.
Play action now, Burns, as he tried to muscle it to Dalton Schultz, and it goes incomplete.
You know, we mentioned early the guys that Stanford is missing. If you take a look at the problems that they've had tonight, a lot of different ways. Francis Owusu not playing, one of their receivers, a speedy receiver, was hit in the UCLA game, the non-targeting call.
Very controversial non-targeting call, and David Shaw had some strong comments about that. Reached out to the Pac-12 for some clarification as Trent Irwin takes it out past midfield. 18-yard reception.
Not sure how much difference his presence would make tonight. Pass protection a bigger problem, but that's one of the best plays right there that they've had all night, that pass and catch.
Empty set here with McCaffrey in the slot for Ryan Burns. That was well off the mark. Here we are under 3.5 minutes to play in the third quarter, and Ryan Burns yet to have 100 yards passing. Well, Jim Harbaugh, we saw Keller Chris, the backup quarterback in the first half for Stanford. Uncle Paul's going to be in action against Jim Harbaugh tomorrow, as a surprising Wisconsin team will be taking on Michigan. I think Wisconsin feels like they haven't gotten enough respect. Here's Bryce Love, as he is ridden out of bounds that time by Azim Victor. Up 30, and they're still roaring on every third down. They've been waiting for this game, for this moment.
Timeout. Washington, their first charge timeout of the half. This will be a 30-second timeout.
The Washington defense, 15th best scoring defense in the country. And they have contained McCaffrey, haven't they?
Yeah, only 12 carries, 49 yards. They did it with leverage, and they did it by getting a lot of helmets to the football. He's a hard guy to bring down with one guy. You got to get a lot of bodies around him. You got to make him dance a little bit. Don't let him cut back. Don't let him turn the corner on you. And I think consistently the Washington defense has done that. It started up front. The front four has controlled the line of scrimmage. But the linebackers, the defensive backs, the safeties have all done a nice job of playing with leverage and not allowing Christian McCaffrey to have room to bust off long runs.
You see the 200 all-purpose yards. Keep in mind a 57-yard kickoff return. So that's 0 in that column of having never scored a touchdown in a true road game for Christian McCaffrey. 3rd down and 5. Here comes some pressure.
Right tackle move. This is a dead ball penalty. Casey Tucker, the right tackle, came out of his stance early.
He had reason to, right?
Yeah.
Saw what was coming.
There was no play before the snap. False start. Offense number 77. 5-yard penalty. 3rd down.
Just not what we're used to when it comes to discussing Stanford offensive line play.
Well, really, so many things tonight. 10 penalties for Stanford. Inability to run the football. No big plays. 4th time Stanford tonight. 3rd down and 10 or longer.
Burns steps up in the pocket, and that is just off the mark. He was looking for J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, who was Mr. Clutch last week with the go-ahead touchdown in the final half minute at UCLA.
Good tight coverage by Darren Gardenhire on that in route.
Let's go down to the field to Holly.
Well, the lack of rushing by Stanford. Keep in mind they're also without their starting fullback tonight. Daniel Marks outweighs Reagan Williams, who's been filling in by about 30 pounds. I noticed Marks on the sideline with a big brace on his right knee. He's supposedly week to week, but boy, have they missed his physical presence tonight at the point of attack.
4th and 10. Stanford's gone for it a couple times on 4th down, yet to convert. Burns will check down. McCaffrey has to make it happen, and somehow he does, as he's able to spin free for 14 yards on 4th and 10.
You know, great players find a way. You know, it hasn't been his kind of night necessarily, but great players make great plays, and they find a way to get it done. He's a check down. He's in there helping block. There's nobody for him to pick up, so he leaks out, and he makes 2 guys miss and gets the 1st down.
Burns had Arcega-Whiteside trying to stretch out for that completion. 2nd and 10.
He had what he wanted. He used a little pump fake to the left to hold the free safety, JoJo McIntosh, but the ball was a little errantly thrown. Otherwise, he has a touchdown.
Burns was taken out earlier tonight as David Shaw wanted to try to settle him down. Came back in, didn't get any better. He's been sacked 7 times, Stanford has tonight. Inside with McCaffrey, not much there as Buda Baker was waiting on it. Be 4th down again as Arcega-Whiteside will be a couple yards short of the line to make as Victor and Gardenhire came up with the tackle. Been that kind of night for David Shaw, hasn't it? Very honest with his assessment at halftime and talking to Holly. Got to go back 10 years the last time Stanford was shut out. USC did it to them back in 06. Plenty of time and able to get it complete to Rector for 6 yards and a first down.
Nice strong throw that time by Burns. Rector did a nice job of shielding the defender away from the football.
Go from the unbalanced line to a shift. Now look at this, just the 3 linemen in the center as they bring 3 linemen to the near side, and they go with the screen there, and it is dropped by Bryce Love.
But even if he catches it, Kevin King split through the 3 big blockers and was there to make a tackle if he catches the football. You got 3 big hosses there, and Kevin King just runs right around him and would have been there for the tackle anyway.
Thirteenth play of this drive, coming up on the final half minute of this third quarter. As Stanford is trying to get on the board, and the play clock was running down there. Incomplete that time, looking for Arcega-Whiteside again.
Well, again, Stanford is just so out of their comfort zone. This is not how they're built to play offensive football. Coming from behind by this deep of a margin, having to just drop back and throw, kind of taking Christian McCaffrey almost out of some of the things you're doing.
McCaffrey's in the slot to the top of your screen here on 3rd and 10. To the end zone, and what a nice effort that time by J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, and Stanford finally gets on the scoreboard.
Budda Baker was in coverage and was in good position. The problem, Budda Baker is only 5'10", and he jumped. His timing on the jump was good. He just wasn't able to jump high enough. And a nice throw by Burns to Arcega-Whiteside.
So a 14-play scoring drive, showing some life offensively. Two-point conversion out of the I formation with McCaffrey back there. And that is incomplete as Burns hesitated and then finally gummed it Arcega-Whiteside's way. Top 10 rankings are brought to you by Allstate, and all eyes will be on number 3 Louisville, number 5 Clemson, number 4 Michigan, and number 8 Wisconsin. And it'll be interesting to see the way people view this performance when everything settles down and the new rankings come out next week. Of course, the games tomorrow on ABC are spectacular. So interested to see how Lamar Jackson handles that setting down there in Death Valley. That's the 8 o'clock ABC game Saturday night.
We talked about the job that Pete Witkowski's defense has done tonight. One of his good friends in the coaching business, a guy that was at one time the defensive coordinator at Boise State under Chris Peterson. Justin Wilcox, the defensive coordinator in Wisconsin this season, has done a nice job. 2 outstanding defensive football teams going at it tomorrow.
John Ross on the return. So this is a current upswing in Washington football. Who knows what this year will bring. But you go back and you look at the history of Washington, of course, from 75 to 02. Don James leading the way with the national championship. And then the downturn, the 7 straight losing seasons, 03 to 2009. And Coach Sarkisian started recruiting well, building things back up. 6 straight winning seasons, and now in the hands of Chris Peterson and a team that you look at the depth and you look at the talents, and they are going to play a major role for some years to come. As Myles Gaskin with a good hard-earned 9.5 yards there. And that should close out this third quarter, as Stanford was able to get to the end zone, but it's been all Washington with Jake Browning and Myles Gaskin and John Ross and the bunch doing damage all night long at home. Stanford at Washington, Dr. Pepper's championship drive game of the week. You know, last year against Stanford, Washington didn't cross midfield until the third quarter. And here they are starting the fourth quarter in complete control. 30-6. Total yards are 317, 320 to 197. And they came out and did it right from the start. It's funny, Coach Peterson, we were with him at practice the other day. He said, guys, I don't think this is going to be one of these first-round knockout kind of games. I don't think it's going to be still there in the fourth quarter, tightly contested. But they got those big punches in early, and it changed the dynamics of this game.
Yeah, and I'm sure it surprised him a little bit, but he'll take it. You know, it threw Stanford off of their game, off their normal game a little bit. And then just the fact how dominant Washington has been on the line of scrimmage.
There's Myles Gaskin continuing to get some work here. 2 more yards. Joey Alfieri with the tackle. Haven't called his name enough tonight. Last week in the final seconds against UCLA, he's the one that had that sack and that forced fumble that was returned for a touchdown. Second and 9 now, as Gaskin gets to the edge with great speed and crosses midfield. Another first down for Washington. You know, I mentioned it earlier, Todd, that Washington, as we take a look here at Gaskin's speed to the outside.
Just a simple play, and he just gets to the outside. They get a nice block on Colombaye, who is supposed to maintain the edge, and it's a big pickup.
I mentioned earlier that Washington was one of the trendy picks in college football this offseason. You'd always hear people, oh, I like Washington. I think typically when that happens, programs and teams tend to be a year away. Tennessee was a trendy pick about a year ago. Clemson a few years back, they were the trendy pick. But it takes time to get over that hump. This Washington team in a Pac-12 this year where you can do it. And then there's this game that gives you the opportunity to really go to that next rung on the ladder.
Well, they're physical, and that's the thing. Now, the other thing it's time to start talking about a little bit is this game right here. Next week at Oregon, because that's the team that has beaten Washington 12 consecutive times.
Their defense good enough, Todd?
These guys?
Oregon's defense to handle Washington?
Well, I'll tell you what, if Washington plays the way they played tonight, a little different on the road at Autzen Stadium, but if they play this way and are this physical at the line of scrimmage, Oregon will have a difficult time with them.
Levon Coleman in now to get some work for Gaskin, who had 5 straight rushing attempts. Solomon Thomas with the tackle. There is Gaskin. 87 yards to this point. A couple of touchdown scores.
I like the combination that this team has offensively. I like Browning, his passing. I like that they do stuff from the shotgun, under center. They can run power. They can also put the wideouts, the fast wideouts out there and threaten you that way. They're a very diverse offense, and they got the right guy kind of pulling the trigger in Jake Browning.
He was altering the cadence that time. Saw the movement up front.
Jonathan Smith is the offensive coordinator for Washington. Was a great quarterback himself at Oregon State.
Defense number 90 with contact in the neutral zone. 5-yard penalty, third down.
You know, we sat with Jonathan Smith the other day. We asked him about Browning. He said, you know, his overall command and it's just his comfort level is so much better. And then he also said he's improved the deep ball. We saw the deep ball a couple times tonight to John Ross. Got to be a lot of fun for Jonathan Smith to look around and see all the different weapons in this offense. A lot of speed on the field for Washington. And go with the inside screen on 3rd and 2, and McClatcher. Look at McClatcher. Is he fun to watch or what? 12-yard reception for Chico McClatcher.
Again, a nifty little play. Fake the run, spin back, throw the inside screen, and this guy's got some balance now. You better be sure getting him to the ground. It's actually a nice job by the defender there, Sean Barton, because if he lets him go, McClatcher hadn't hit the ground yet, and he could have bounced right back up.
McClatcher's mom, Cam, was a track star here at UW. And Gaskin with another strong effort on the left side, 9-yard run for Miles.
We talked so much tonight about Washington's defense maintaining the edge, playing with leverage, and Stanford's defense just has not been consistent with that. And they're giving up 9-yard runs on first down that are not fancy running plays. They're just not able to maintain the edge of the defense.
Browning on 2nd and 2. Good pocket awareness to step up and drift out to the right, and then couldn't connect with John Ross.
Justin Reed was there on defense. Not sure if he got a hand on it or not, but he certainly got his hands in the vision of John Ross. Kind of went right through Justin Reed's hands, and John Ross couldn't pick the football up after it hit him. Washington has had 9 total third down situations tonight. 8 of them have been third down and 4 or less. We showed you Jonathan Smith. It's a lot easier to call a game when you have those kind of third down situations.
3rd and 2, Coleman, as he has enough for the first down.
Well, while these teams worked on a short week, this week they'll actually pick up a day playing on Friday night before their next game.
For Stanford, they have Washington State back on the farm, and we already told you about Washington taking the trip down to Eugene to take on the Ducks, who have just had their number now for 12 years.
Working on a 6-minute drive right now for Washington. Again, the script has been completely flipped.
It has,
tonight.
hasn't it?
Dominance at the line of scrimmage, check mark to Washington. Controlling the game with your running game, check mark to Washington. It's just been a dominant performance by this Husky team.
You know, we were talking earlier, and you said, you know, listen, I think Washington's got the advantage with speed, the advantage with skill, but the only way to beat Stanford is to trade punches with them.
Yeah.
And they were willing to throw.
You have to be able to match up at the line of scrimmage. And not only did they match up and hold their own, they dominated. And that's why it's such a lopsided score.
There's Gaskin. He's trying to weave his way down to the 11-yard line, tackled by Nor Davis.
Very impressed by that front four as we take a look at one of those guys sitting on the bench over there. A couple of Elijah Qualls, number 11, 99, Greg Gaines. Very impressed with the defensive front of Washington.
Generated 7 sacks tonight, and then you look at the back end for Washington's defense, and they're really good back there.
Yeah.
Stanford without Owusu tonight. They struggled to pass the ball. 3rd and 5. Browning's just going to step forward, and Browning will have the first down. It'll be 1st and goal, Washington. So this long, time-consuming drive to close out this game could end up with more points on the board.
The only time tonight that he has scrambled to run, the right decision, gets the first down. Normally when he scrambles, his eyes are downfield, he's scrambling to throw. That time he made the right decision, scrambling to run.
Gaskin able to get just inside the 2-yard line. Gaskin already has 2 touchdowns rushing on the night. 100-yard night for Myles Gaskin.
Right now, if you're Chris Peterson, one of the things you want to make sure doesn't happen, you don't want to get anybody hurt here at this point in the game. Dante Pettis just kind of limped off the field. You put another touchdown on the board here, it might be time to get your main line starting guys out of the ball game.
15th play of the drive, and they go with the pitch to McClatcher, who was wrestled down. That was Justin Reed who was tracking him.
Really nice play by Justin Reed, because he actually got sucked inside a little bit and then showed great closing speed to the ball.
That's Eric Reed's little brother, Justin Reed.
Yeah, I thought McClatcher was going to turn the corner. Justin Reed with a great response and reaction, and then an angle to the football.
Very physically gifted safety for Stanford. Now, they've only passed 1 time on this 15-play drive. That's chewed up the clock here in the 4th quarter. 3rd and goal. Browning sprints and then scores. That was Aaron Fuller with the touchdown catch.
That was a beautiful route by Fuller, working on Ben Edwards, the safety. Normally when the quarterback rolls that way, you expect it to be an outside route. He sold the outside route and spun back underneath for the touchdown.
Well, Jake Browning now with 17 passing touchdowns on the year. He came in ranked number 2 in the nation in total touchdowns. Great completion percentage marks, passing efficiency. He is a good-looking leader of what is a very interesting team. Championship caliber Washington Huskies. Well, tomorrow is going to be critical, folks. Getting through your weekend. Use that ESPN app. Watch ESPN. Get you through with every game live. You can download the app or visit watchespn.com today. That's how I'm going to be spending my Saturday. I'm going to a college game. I'm going to go to the BC Buffalo games. I'm going to go to a prep school game. I'm going to be on that app all day. And just a little short pooch kickoff. Fielded at about the 25. Let's size up this Washington team. How good are they? A+ performance tonight. More to come when we come back.
ESPN College Football, brought to you by Allstate, proud supporters of college football. It's good to be in good hands.
See some of the images of a dominating defense of Washington tonight. The offense did their job as well. One of the top 10 matchups down and 2 to go as Dubs looks on here, and everybody will be looking on with Wisconsin, Michigan, and then Louisville, Clemson. ABC 3:30 Eastern, ABC 8 o'clock Eastern. The showdowns continue with these 3 top 10 matchups, all in conference play. Keller Christ back in the game. He fumbles it, but was able to recover. And it was Vita Vea who forced that fumble.
You know, again, it's just a 4-man rush. Nothing fancy. Vita Vea just pushes right through the intended blocker, the left guard, David Bright. Shows you his power.
8th sack of the night for the Washington defense. 8. Stanford giving up only 4 coming in.
We asked the question, how good is this Washington team? I think we'll find out next week. Now, they looked awesome tonight, dominant tonight. How do they handle prosperity? How do they handle now being undefeated? Everybody's going to talk about them this week. And now they have to go on the road next week and play a team that they haven't beaten for 12 consecutive games.
That is Buda Baker showing you exactly how violent and aggressive he can be, and he can close on a ball, as J.J. Arcega-Whiteside was on the wrong side of that. And there's an offensive lineman down for Stanford. I believe that's Casey Tucker. Casey Tucker. And they moved around some of the parts of this offensive line.
And another situation where he was engaged blocking, another body fell into him.
And Christian McCaffrey, not a McCaffrey-esque night. 49 yards rushing, 30 receiving. Did have the one good kickoff return. There's Buda Baker on the other side, who they describe as the ultimate competitor.
The secondary for Washington is a very experienced group.
Incredibly instinctive player and such a willing athlete to just throw his body around. They got a lot of talent in that defensive backfield, does Washington, and they're big up front. I'll tell you, look at Vea and Gaines and Qualls, and you see active 300-pounders. You see a lot of guys that you and I are used to covering when we're down south.
Yeah.
And I hate to use that crush, that overused phrase of an SEC defensive line, but these are the kind of body types and the kind of guys that can stay on the field in every down and get the job done. Casey Tucker is up and with a little help making his way off the field. Holly.
Well, we'll definitely update you on that. But just following up on your point about this Washington defense tonight, the thing that's really stood out to me is there haven't been many yards after contact. They have been sound and sure tacklers. One of the reasons is they have employed this new style of tackling that's coming into football the last few years called rugby tackling, where they're using their shoulder, they hit the near hip, they don't put their head into the tackle. And boy, I've been so impressed with how sound their tackling of this defense was tonight. Very few yards after contact.
And that style popularized right down the road with their in-town football brethren in the NFL. So Bailey on to punt again. And he had a rough outing earlier tonight with that 19-yard punt that gave Washington a short field. Pettis makes the first man miss. He's got a little wiggle to him. Dad was a great major leaguer. Brother's a soap opera actor. Kyler Pettis on Days of Our Lives. 37-6, dominating defense for the Huskies. Look at those numbers. celebrating its 12th year sponsoring the Good Hands Field Goal Nets. All-State makes contributions to participating universities' general scholarship funds for each field goal and extra point kick. And today at All-State has contributed millions in scholarship funds. Well, UW is about to be on an 8-game winning streak. As Dotson gets some work here in the final 5 minutes. Stanford coming in had won 15 of their last 16 and had won 7 straight Pac-12 regular season road games. David Shaw knew right from the beginning, he said it at halftime, the worst I've seen us play in a long time right from the start. As Jake Browning will take a seat, KJ Carter-Samuels, who actually started last year against Stanford when Browning was injured, will finish this one up. And the road ahead for Stanford, Todd. They'll head back to Palo Alto for Washington State. Not quite the same Notre Dame team that you and I broadcast in week 1 down there at Texas coming up.
Yeah, obviously Stanford still a chance for an outstanding season. They did not play well tonight, but it'll be good for them to get back home next week.
Dotson wiggles his way for a few. Of course, injuries were such a big part of the storyline this week, Holly.
That's right. Both of those starting corners, Elijah Holder and Quentin Meeks, are thought to be week to week. We've seen both of them on the sidelines tonight, moving around well. Hopefully they would be able to get back and play for Stanford next week. Keep in mind, Stanford had a very unusual schedule, a bye week in just their 2nd week of the season. So they had to go 11 straight weeks. Not a lot of time for these injured bodies to get healthy. 4 starters were out tonight.
And Holly, remember David Shaw's reaction when we were with him coming off that bye week about where that bye week was placed. He wasn't so happy, was he? Yeah. Dotson with a couple of yards there. He's a smaller, more nifty, well, stop and start kind of guy. We've seen extensive work from Coleman, who's nearly 230 pounds, and Gaskin, who's capable of every down and distance.
Well, I think we talked all night about the Washington defensive line and controlling things at the line of scrimmage. Their offensive line tonight been pretty impressive too. 189 yards rushing for Washington, 210 yards passing. No sacks allowed on Jake Browning.
And Coleman will add to it. This thing got ugly, and it never stopped. As Stanford's going to look up at that scoreboard and cringe. Washington dominant tonight.
Fresh legs, Levon Coleman. They've rotated their backs. 3 different guys have carried the football untouched to the end zone. Levon Coleman.
Well, if this margin holds up, it's going to be the worst loss by a top 10 Stanford team in history. 44-6, 424 total yards to 186. Now the top 10 throwdown continues tomorrow with those battles, the Big Ten and the ACC. This top 10 throwdown became a smackdown as Stanford got absolutely wrecked. You got a feel for these games tomorrow. What's your feel on the Wisconsin-Michigan game?
Well, I think they're both going to be really fun games to watch. Kind of different in style. I expect the Michigan-Wisconsin game to be a little bit more of a defensive battle, a little bit lower scoring. Interesting, you know, everybody talks about Jim Harbaugh and what a great job he's done, and he has. Both he and Paul Chryst in their second years, both of them identical Big Ten records, identical overall records. So Paul Chryst has done a great job in his short time at Wisconsin. And the nightcap, I think the most intriguing thing for me in that game is the chess match between Bobby Petrino, who I think is one of the best play callers in college football, against Brent Venables, the defensive coordinator for Clemson.
I agree with you there as Cameron Scarlett gets work here. Louisville, Clemson, obviously you got the showdown of star quarterbacks, but that Clemson defense has been great. They got, they lost a lot of top NFL talent, but they've got that next wave. Too. I mean, guys like Christian Wilkins on the inside of the defensive line, and they have been recruiting so well that they can just reload there. The numbers for Louisville's offense are just, they're hard to consume what they've done this first month.
When you're talking about defending Lamar Jackson, I just think you got to somehow try to make him stay in the pocket and throw the football and beat you that way. He is such an elusive, dangerous runner that you can't let him run crazy.
Flag is down with Isaiah Brandt Sims on the reception. Wisconsin, by the way, is dealing with injuries, much like Stanford came in today dealing with. Now Stanford much more significant.
Defense number 8 lined up in the neutral zone. The penalty is declined. The result of the play is a first down.
Badgers, though, star linebacker banged up, starting kicker out. But they've got a little bit of that attitude. And I think Wisconsin feels not everybody's buying in on them, and they want to prove something.
They've had 2 quality wins, too. They beat LSU in the opener up in Lambeau Field, and then they beat Michigan State convincingly.
Here's Scarlett again, and we remind you that you keep it here for SportsCenter at night. The one and only Scott Van Pelt, SVP, will give you the breakdown of baseball's playoff races, little Ryder Cup, all the NFL news, get you set for the day in college football. I saw his Stanford Steve Coughlin, his good buddy, producer Stanford Steve out here pregame. I think Stanford Steve has had a difficult evening, to say the least. Former tight end from Insonia, Connecticut, who went out to the farm back in the day. And you can hear the roar here of the 72,000 at Husky Stadium. Stanford had won 3 straight against Washington, 7 of 8. And as Todd, you perfectly described, when it comes to the Pac-12 of recent years, the big bad bully of the neighborhood. But these Washington faithful felt like this could be the night, the breakthrough for what Chris Peterson has been building this program to be.
Very, very impressive. And they did it the Stanford way. They beat Stanford at Stanford's game. They were the more physical team at the line of scrimmage.
Don't say that often in a Stanford game. The more physical team at the line of scrimmage. 44-6. 424 yards of offense, and their first win in a matchup of top 10 teams since all the way back in that famous 92 Rose Bowl win. Holly's down on the field with the winning quarterback.
Well, Jake, you didn't get a play in this Stanford game last year. You were out injured. So how were you able to come out and so quickly get on top of this very good Stanford defense?
I think it started with our defense being able to stop their drives. They're known for holding on to the ball forever. So I thought our defense did a great job, and then we just executed on offense. It wasn't anything really special. Not a bunch of trick plays or anything. We just executed how we were supposed to.
I thought you took some early shots down the field and connected with your receivers, took advantage of their defensive backs that were out. What was the mindset there?
If they were going to play up and try and stuff the box and press our guys, we thought we could win on the edge, and they did. I missed a couple for sure. I missed 2 I thought I could have scored on, but we connected when we needed to, and it feels good to get the win.
How do you describe your offensive line, how physical and strong they were really driving this team tonight?
I mean, all we heard about all week leading up to this, if you were listening to media, which you're not supposed to be, but all you heard about was Stanford's O-line and their D-line, and I think they kind of took that personally and wanted just to stick it to them, be able to run the ball, and I thought they did a great job, and we're fighting like hell.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Jake Browning with 3 touchdowns. Christian McCaffrey only 49 yards rushing, only 30 receiving. Did have the big kickoff return. and still hasn't scored a touchdown in a true road game. Stanford gets walloped, absolutely wrecked on the road here in Seattle. They're going to be partying deep into the night, 44-6. Watch out for Washington, 5-0 and rise on up. Let's send it to SVP and SportsCenter at night.